So I got the green light to whack out Puppet and his girlfriend. It's going to be a death match. So I had them get me a zip. I want to make national news. Inmates slain, executed with a firearm in Los Angeles County Jail. And I wanted the grandiosity of it. It had never been done before. My name is Rene Enriquez, and you are watching Uncensored. I've been thinking about this story for a long time because it involves a lot. It's got a lot of moving pieces. There's a lot of complexity to it, but it's a fascinating story when you really think about it. It involves Bessie Sagato. His real name was Bessie Sagato, Mexican Mafia member. This is Bessie depicted in Folsom State Prison. The guy standing next to him is Popeye Danny Roman, the individual that was eliminated. In fact, Bessie was eliminated himself, but we'll get to that. It's a long story. Bessie was a well-known brother from 18th Street. In fact, was credited with creating the taxation system in downtown LA. His homeboys had this blind loyalty to him, and every time he got out, they took care of him. And he started organizing along with Puppet Martinez and Night Owl from 18th Street. So the story revolves around Bessie. And I remember Bessie. I met him in Folsom State Prison when I got released to the mainland from Shoe 2. He was a 4A carnal. There were two shoes there. There was 4A and Shoe 2 in Old Folsom. Bessie was from the 4A group. I was from the Shoe 2 group. And in 1985, 1986, we were all released to the general population after Nico Velasquez had negotiated the peace treaty between the BGF and the Mexican Mafia after Joe Morgan was transferred out of the prison, because Joe Morgan was adamantly opposed to having any peace with the blacks. That's just the way it was with Joe. He was a hardcore racist. And me and Bessie got along pretty well. This is a picture of him and I in front of that same Building 2 armory. That's the old armory where they used to keep all the guns in Folsom State Prison. Now it's like a supply room or something. I don't know. But it was them when I was there. That's Bessie standing in the center and me squatting with the beanie cap on, lower left. In fact, in that picture, going from the upper row from the left to right is Spider Galvadon, Big Spider from Cantaranas. On the far right, standing is Güero Caballo from 18th Street, George Gonzalez. And on the right is Vincent Hurtado, that's Chente from Pomona. We were all brand new carnales at the time. We were the new wave, the Pepsi generation. You're looking at the Pepsi generation right there. But we were all relatively new brothers, and we all used to run together. All the younger brothers used to run together, and we all got along great. This is at a time when politics were just emerging between Bebito and Kilroy opposing anybody that got along with Joe Morgan. But it was still kind of like the honeymoon period in my induction in the Mexican Mafia. And I didn't have any political worries, didn't have anything like that. I was just in, everybody was just in, we just got made, and we were learning to be carnales. Like we were baby carnales at this time. And we had the titans on the yard with us. Güero Shai Shryak, Alpi Sosa, Kilroy Roybal, Pepito Alvarez, Gil Santisteban, Nico Velasquez. All these carnales were on the main line with us. And they were like the veteranos, right? The veterans of the group. And as we go along, we're learning how to function, right? I mean, we're just ourselves. Once you get made, you're just thrust out there. I mean, there's no protocol to teach you. You just learn. You sink or swim. That's really what it is. This is Bessie, circled in the red. To his right is David Galvadon. In fact, I see David Galvadon in a blue pea coat. They used to give us these blue pea coats, and they were nice. They kept you warm. It was freezing up there, and this is obviously a winter day because everybody's bundled up in thermals and jackets. Squatting on the left is David Delgadillo, Chino from Garrity, and on the right, squatting is Wino Grajeda. Old Wino. They named him adequately because he was a bum. Never had anything, never had any money, never had any hustle. Always avoided Mexican Mafia meetings. He wouldn't. In fact, in one issue, I think I'll do an episode on, we were supposed to go do an elimination, and he avoided that. He did everything in his power to avoid meeting up with carnales. The complete opposite of who his brother Cuate was. They're exact identical twins. Wino and Cuate are identical twins. But Cuate is a through and through killer. Wino is just a bum, so they named him adequately. So here's the issue with Bessie. Right? This is why we're talking about Bessie, because I end up with Bessie in Palm Hall years later. I'm doing a violation. We both get out of prison. He's doing a violation, and we go through the plot to eliminate Bebito Alvarez. This is his road dog. Bessie was road dogs with Bebito Alvarez and Kilroy, and he was part of their crew. Bebito and Kilroy end up on the lista, and Bessie and I end up in Palm Hall together with Tupi Hernandez, Turtle from Colton, and there was another brother there. But we were going to eliminate Bebito. After it was discovered that we were going to do this hit, myself, Dottie, and Pee Wee end up transferred to Corcoran. We all get there at the same time. And it's a midnight express. They don't even tell us to pack up because you usually get notification that you're going to be transferred. The CDC arranged it so they're going to kidnap us and just take us, right? And they just did that to me at midnight one day. Vesey starts the rumor that I locked up, that I went into PC. I just disappeared one night. Little did he know that I'm on a bus with other Mexican Mafia members to Corcoran. He started this rumor based on mere speculation. He got into the habit of talking bad about people. And because Bebito and Kilroy had previously spoken bad about me, he just continued that thread. He did it in Palm Hall. And who was there after I left? Who arrived there? David Baez, Puppet from Florencia. So he tells Puppet from Florencia, and Puppet is a true hog. He's a killer for the organization. He's been around for years. He's got a lot of juice in the organization. So they both start running with this rumor. Boxer locked up, 1988. They snatched it from Palm Hall. He disappeared, and he went into PC. I don't know this is going on. I do not have the slightest idea that this is happening. And they ran with it. It got around the organization. In fact, here's Puppet sitting down. He's kind of laying in front of this group photo. That's him at San Quentin State Prison. And I'm telling you, he had a lot of influence in the organization. He was a doer. He wasn't just a talker. He was a heroin addict, though. He died of an overdose after his release. In this picture, the first row squatting, that's Chewy from Venice. I sponsored him into the organization. The individual in the turquoise bandana is Fernando Bermudez. He recently passed away of natural causes. And the person on the left is Turtle Baez. He recently passed away, I think, in New Mexico of natural causes. And in the upper row, standing in the back, is a very young Daryl Baca. This is how the yards used to be in San Quentin, right? Where all the cardenales came out that were on that yard. All the camaradas came out and they interacted with cardenales on a regular basis. That's how it was. And that's the kind of juice that Puppet had. He's like the preeminent leader in that group. Fernie was a humble, quiet guy. But Fernie is the real power in that picture. He's the elder statesman. He's a really quiet individual who's never involved in politics, very dignified individual, and one of the people that schooled Daryl Baca. And that's one of the reasons that Daryl Baca is the way he is, so dignified and quiet and respectful and non-political, right? Because he learned from the very best, and Fernie was the very best. David, on the other hand, was just a straight thug killer. He was smart, had magnetism, but he was a thug. So the story starts in Men's Central Jail. Puppet arrives in the Men's Central Jail. I'm there fighting my double homicide charge. And it's then that somebody tells me that Puppet was calling me a PC. That's when I find out about this thing with him and Vesey in Chino Palm Hall that occurred a couple of years earlier where I was transferred to Corcoran on the Midnight Express. They said I locked up. They said I went into PC. And I'm a full-fledged carnal here. I got notches on my belt. I'm not a big juice guy. I'm just a carnal, right? I was never this big leader that everybody says I was. I was just a regular guy, just like everybody else, right? But Turtle from Colton tells me that this went down. And Turtle was my buddy. And I ask, okay, I want to deal with it. And everybody says yes. Everybody says yes. So I got the green light to whack out Puppet at the Men's Central County Jail. And I'm nervous. I'm not going to lie. I'm nervous. Puppet's a big boy. That picture does not do him justice. In real life, he's huge, right? And he's no pushover. It's going to be a thing. Right? It's going to be a death match. So I talked to a couple camaradas. I think I talked to Muskie from Flores, and I tell him, what do you think? He says, you're going to need about 2 guys to hold him, right? I talked to a couple other camaradas. I think Chango from San Fernando Valley. I talked to him as well. And he says, yeah, you're going to have a couple guys hold him while you whack him. And that's exactly what I was going to do. We were going to do it on the visiting chain, and we're going to come out of our cuffs, and I can't remember who I had selected to go with me, but we're going to do it on the visiting chain. We're going to come out of our cuffs and whack them right there in 1750 after being processed for visiting. So what's the first thing I do? The first thing I do is I got to secure a shank. And I think the best depiction of the knife I made is the knife here depicted in blue handle, right? That's the kind of knife I cut out of the side of my bunk. I had a hacksaw blade, and I just worked every night. You could hear the scraping and the cutting. The hacksaw blade was about 2 inches long, so it was a piece of a hacksaw blade. And I cut out a shank like that, ready to go for Puppet. And I'm down with it. I'm ready. I got everybody in the county jail agreed. He called you a PC. Yeah, you got the right to kill him. And then Topo Peters comes along, asked me to let the guy apologize. I'm ready to go. Topo says, you can do it if you really want to. He says, but do me a favor. Talk to him. Find out what happened. I still didn't know that Bessie was the one that started the rumor. I didn't. So one day I go out to visit, and Puppet's right next to me, and he tells me, "Hey, you know what? Despensa," which means I'm sorry, right? He says, "I said it, and I own it." He said, "But I didn't originate it." He says, "Bessie is the one that started that story after you transferred out of Palm Hall, because Bessie was the only one there. He said that they came and got you. You disappeared at midnight. He said that you PC'd." And I said, "Okay." So I thought about it, right? I still wasn't convinced that I was going to give Puppet a pass. I still wasn't. I could have pushed it hard, and he would have been on the lista no matter what, even if I didn't do it. Now, if I didn't do it while he was in the county jail, they probably would have whacked me for saying that I wanted him on the lista not doing it. So I thought about it, and I went back and talked to Topo Peters. And Topo Peters told me, "Hey, he apologized to you like a man, and he owned it. And he told you who started it. That's who you want to focus on. That guy, Bessie." So I decided to give Puppet a pass. And then who ends up in the county jail? Puppet gets transferred out, and Bessie Sagato arrives in the county jail. He had been calling my mom at the house while he was out, apologizing. But I knew somebody had to pay for this. Somebody had to pay. And it was too little, too late. I think somehow some of the coronados in the county jail told Bessie, "Hey, Puppet apologized to Rene and owned it." And Rene said, "Okay, cool, it's done. It's over." I had proven my point in the county jail. I had proven my point. I'm right here. I'm facing this guy, and I'm ready to whack him. And he apologized. And by no means did Puppet bow down. He didn't bow down to me at all. Don't get that twisted, right? Puppet was a hog, and I was just a kid, really. I was like 27 years old, 28 years old. Puppet's an old 40, 50-year-old guy, been killing for the organization. He wasn't about to bow down to me. He apologized like a man, and I accepted it. So Bessie arrives in the county jail after having called my mom multiple times to apologize, offered me drugs, offered me this, offered me that, and he's in high power with us. He's in high power with us. By this time, I had participated in the attorney room hit on the Carnan Man. I've talked about that a couple of times. So I knew that we had to get something to do this, and I wanted it to be big. I wanted to make a statement. So I had somebody bring in something we could use. In fact, it was a relative of Little Mo Reese, right? That were going to turn themselves into the county jail for 2 or 3 days. They had a weekend to do. So I talked to somebody on the streets and had them get me a zip gun. Much like this. It was a 22 with 6 rounds, rimfire. And I also had some hacksaw blades and balloons of heroin sent in as well. So there's bundles coming into me. But the main thing to me is the zip gun. I want to use this zip gun on Bessie Sagato. I want to shoot him in the head and make national news. Inmate slain, executed with a firearm in Los Angeles County Jail. It had never been done before. And that's what I wanted, the grandiosity of it. I wanted this to send shockwaves everywhere. Like, wow, these guys got guns. They'll blow your brains out right in the county. I wanted it to be this crazy hit, kind of like the attorney room, over the top. So what do? This guy turns himself into the county jail. I set up with the inmates that work IRC, Inmate Reception Center. That's where you get processed through when you're initially arrested. And I have trustees there waiting. I have 2 or 3 trustees. And I give them a code word. And the code word was sports. They're going to ask for him. His name was Dodo. That's all I'll say. It was Dodo. Dodo comes in with his Yahoo pack full of stuff, the 22, the 6 rounds, the 2 hacksaw blades, and a bundle of heroin balloons. And a trustee walks up to him and says, "Are you Dodo?" He says, "Yes." And the guy says, "Hey, Rene sent me, and I'm supposed to tell you sports." And the guy pulls it out of his and gives it to him. Lo and behold, it makes it to me that day. The package makes it to me that day. And I know who's down there in high power. It's Little Mo Ruiz and Nidal Castro, Ruben Castro from 18th Street. And Ruben Castro had been in contact with me. He had been sending me clavo. He had sent me a 223 round. I mean, he was sending me all kinds of stuff. Like, what am I going to do with a 223 round in the county jail, right? But he's the one that acquired the 22 longs for me as well. Weeks before he even got busted, he got them for me. And he gets there. And Bessie's on the tier with him. He is on the tier with Bessie. He's in place to do what I want to do. So I send the zip gun from 2904 where I'm housed down to 1750 with 3 rounds of ammunition. And I send a kite, and I talk to some people in the visiting booth. Here this is how I do it. I send it through visiting, and it gets to Ruben. He gets it. And he sets it up. He puts the thing together, and he puts a round in the chamber. And Bessie plays chess. Bessie's an avid chess player, a master chess player. He could play without a chessboard, with no pieces, and memorize and play. He played me that way and beat me in Palm Hall. I remember it specifically. So Bessie plays chess every day. So Bessie's sitting at his desk, and Ruben comes up with the zip gun behind him, puts his hand through the bars, and fires, and it clicks. Bessie turns around and looks at him. Ruben pulls his hand away, and Bessie says, "Are you trying to shoot me?" He said, no, brother, and walks away. It misfired. He set it up wrong. He didn't put in the firing mechanism correctly. It's just a simple pin, right, on a spring. He bungles it, right? He bungles it. Bessie's on point now, but he doesn't lock up. He didn't really see the gun, but the attempt was made. Ruben Castro attempted to shoot him in the back of the head while he was playing chess on Baker Row in 1700. Bessie was weary after that. He didn't know what was going on. He knew something was up, but he thought he was okay because I wasn't there. I wasn't going to see him personally. He thought maybe because Puppet got a pass, he got a pass. But that wasn't the case. That was not the case because we're still plotting on him. And I told Ruben, what the hell, dude? What the hell? Right after that, they did a raid. Boom. Like the next day. And I'm thinking that Bessie informed that there was a firearm on the tier because they did a raid. They found all the rounds and the zip gun itself. I think they had them in the telephone. I remember something about in the coin slot, that's where they kept the rounds. But I'm pulling from 40 years ago, 30 years ago, so I could be off on that. So they did a raid. They found the firearm and the rounds. So we're stuck with, how do we get Bessie? Ruben's out of the picture now. Ruben transfers. So it's now just, so Ruben Castro, and that's a picture of him in the county jail, what he looked like at the time. He's now just a little old man up in ADX or somewhere. I don't know where he's at, to tell you the truth. I just know he's in federal prison serving a life sentence. He was sentenced under that 1995 RICO indictment, United States of America versus Alex Aguirre, and got a life sentence for it. So Ruben transfers out of prison, out of Los Angeles County Jail. Bessie's still there, and little Mo is still there. So I get at little Mo, and we have a conversation. I tell him, hey, can you handle this? Can you whack him? And Mo agrees to do it. Mo agrees to whack Bessie. So he gets a good shank, and he hides it in a chocolate bar. Those big, extra long Three Musketeers bars that they sell in the county jail. He hides his shank in there. Mo arranges it so that they come out to the visit together. Mo finds out when he's going to have a visit, and then they go out together. And this is Giro. The image depicted here is inmates visiting on Giro. That's where Mexican Mafia used to visit from High Power. And what they did was they installed handcuffs, like a small length of chain welded to that metal partition with a handcuff right there. So they'd have one hand cuffed and one hand free to use the phone. Mo goes out to the visiting room with Bessie next to him, takes the knife out of the candy bar, and Bessie's next to him, and attempts to stab Bessie with the knife in the visiting room in front of everybody. Bessie moves away, and Mo barely cuts him. And that's the hit. Both hits are bungled. Bessie gets away with his life. He ends up locking up in the county jail. Right then and there. He's gone. He goes to another row. And we knew he locked up, but I waited. I wasn't going to be the guy to do the same thing that Bessie did to me, and Bessie comes out to the general population later on. So I waited. I waited and waited and waited. And Mo said, hey, let's tell the Cardenas he locked up. I said, wait. We end up getting transferred to Tehachapi, the shoe there, 4B. That was the AdSeg shoe, and a processing center, a reception center for Southern and Central California. We end up there, and we see Bessie on the non-affiliated PC yard. We see him going out there, and there's a couple other Cardenas there. Prieto's there from Sinaloa, Macho Prieto from Sinaloa, Chuy from Venice is there, I'm there, Little Mo's there, Termite is there with us, and we see him going out. Termite is there with us, and we see him going out, and they say, hey man, he's in PC, let's tell all the brothers. I said, wait, and we waited. I never once said that he locked up. I wanted everybody else to see that he locked up, and that was the end of Bessie. He was done. So the thing with Bessie is that he had skeletons in his closet from way back when. He had a brother named Solo Sagato. His brother's named Solo. He was a rat. He testified in a murder case years before. Bessie knew this. Nobody else did. He hid the fact. In fact, everybody was scared to talk about his brother Chino, Solo Sagato, because Bessie was a carnal. He was a carnal. And nobody wanted to be the one to say that his brother was a rat. Lo and behold, after this happens to Bessie, Bessie's no good. He's PC'd. He's persona non grata. But Solo and Bessie are still popping up in 18th Street. They're collecting money. In fact, Alfred Gomez from 18th Street catches Solo in the hood. Here's a little excerpt from Gomez's appeal. And these are the facts from the court, right? During the afternoon of November 10th, 1993, Edgar Chavez, also a member of the 18th Street gang, drove defendant to the corner of 11th Street and Westlake Avenue, where Sagato was walking with his girlfriend, Mary Granados, the second murder victim. Granados was 26 weeks pregnant. Defendant was wearing a hat and a bandana over the lower part of his face. He left the car, approached Sagato and Granados from behind, and fired at least 7 shots. First at Sagato, then a defendant returned to Chavez's car and left the area. They executed both Solo, which is Bessie's brother, and his girlfriend, and the unborn baby, right there in the middle of the street. So Solo was eliminated behind the Bessie thing, and because he was a rat. They were still running around the hood collecting, and once Bessie lost his stripes, Solo lost his protection, and the homeboys took action. This is the picture of Bessie after he paroled with his bulldog. Bessie was a Marine, and after he paroled, I guess this is the better part of his life, after he left the organization. And beautiful dog, I love the dog. But Bessie lived a normal life, but one of the things that plagued him was his addiction. So he would go back to the hood collecting dope. And Wire was already out. Puppet and Night Owl and Güero Caballo had already sent Wire. Like, this guy is not welcome in the neighborhood. Not welcome in the neighborhood. And he was on the Mexican Mafia hit list. All his homeboys were very organized in that area. And for a long time, even after this had occurred, that he locked up and he got hit, he was welcome there until the Cardenas from 18th Street put their foot down and says he is not welcome there. Ultimately, they caught up with Bessie, and he was shot multiple times and passed away. This is from his obituary. He was born on October 24th, 1956, and he was eliminated January 21st, 2018. As always, like, subscribe, leave a comment, hit that hype button, folks, and as always, stay safe. I'm out. Peace.